Hello and welcome to the first in another vehicle build series. This time we are building KITT from Knight Rider. As you can see, I've already gotten started on this one. I started this before I started the YouTube channel, and then I found out about that tumbler playset, which I just finished turning into a more screen accurate looking tumbler. So that kind of took my attention away from this one because I was really excited about having a tumbler. So I wanted to get back into this one, show you all where it's at so far and what's left to do. And then we'll continue on from there. So first of all, you can see I am building a custom Michael Knight to go with it. The body is a generic Mix Max body. These are getting a little harder to get because I think they just kind of ran out of them. They're pretty popular for customizers. But so that's the base. I sanded down the shoulders a little bit because they were a little too bulky. And, you know, David Hasselhoff is kind of a thinner guy, a little lankier build, so I wanted this to be a little more accurate and not look like he was like a super buff dude with shoulders out to here. The clothes are from GPS Lot on eBay, and then the belt is from a Mezco Logan, and then the boots are from a NECA Lone Ranger. The shirt itself was just a shirt, and then I needed a red turtleneck for the iconic look, so I cut one of the sleeves off and then made it into the turtleneck. The head was a supernatural. Jensen Ackles is the actor. I don't remember which Winchester brother he is. I've never seen the show, but I was looking through the heads I have, and I was like, you know what? This actually has a lot of similarities to David Hasselhoff. So what I did was just add some epoxy sculpt to, the cheekbones and the jawline, and then made the hair to be, fairly accurate to what Hasselhoff looks like. And so it's actually pretty close. And I think once it's painted, it's really going to send it home. So I'm really excited to get that part of it done. I'm really stoked on having iconic vehicles and the characters that go with them. And so, when you think iconic vehicles, I mean, KITT from Knight Rider is one of them, right? Now, let's take a look at the car itself. Part of this was inspired by the fact that I just happened to find the right car for it, right? There's not a lot of options of vehicles that scale with a 1/12 scale action figure. And so when I found this, I was pretty stoked because I was like, what's a Pontiac Firebird KITT, right? So this car is made by a company called Gay Toys. They were out of Walled Lake, Michigan. I believe this toy was probably manufactured in the early 80s when this car was in production. It had windows. The windows were all scratched up, and tinted kind of dark and, sort of yellowed. Thankfully, this thing doesn't smell like smoke or anything, but I don't really think that this is salvageable for the project. So what I will do, though, is probably use them as a mold for when I make the windows out of action figure packaging, just to kind of try to maybe heat shrink them to this, or at least cut them to the right size using this and kind of bend them into shape and see if that does anything for me. The shell of the vehicle is attached to the chassis by these plastic sort of pins in these holes here. There are 6 of them in total. So I actually had to break them off with some needle nose pliers. And then from there, you can take the top off pretty easily. This thing is pretty bare on the inside. It would have come with a steering wheel, but, again, this is like a 40-year-old toy, so there was no steering wheel left. So what I've done so far is I built out the front fascia. You can see where the stock Firebird ended, and then for KITT, they built out this nose on it. I believe this was a George Barris edition. George Barris, very famous vehicle designer. And so I looked to replicate it out of styrene. Now, one place I lucked out was there was a toy of this back in the 80s. It was made by Kenner, I believe. And they're pretty hard to find now, pretty expensive. They're also much smaller than this. So finding one of those and just making a better looking Michael Knight for it wasn't going to work. I did find somebody on eBay who was selling this old trashed KITT chassis and interior, or part of the interior rather. So I bought those thinking, I can use that for something. And also that'll let me see what the scale of the vehicle actually is to see if I should just invest in trying to find a legitimate vintage one. But you can see how much smaller it is. The wheelbase isn't too far off, and this is a bit bent, but this version of KITT is easily a few inches shorter in length than this Firebird is. But this did come with the front fascia. So I had a nice model to use for this version of it. to kind of base it off of and try to get it as accurate as possible. I don't think this was entirely accurate to the show, but I looked up a lot of footage and photos of the original kit to try to get it as close as possible. So we do have an opening here, and I do have a set of lights that will go back and forth. So I'm really excited to put that on as a finishing touch. This also I made of styrene. This is probably 4 layers of styrene that I glued together and then heated it up and bent it to the contour of the hood and glued it down. So I'll probably have to do some sanding around here because the glue is a little bit textured. So these were the hardest parts so far. And I think once that's done, I might be out of the woods in terms of like really difficult parts of this build. I still need to do the bottom piece. You can see on this front fascia, it's got this lower piece here. So we still need that here. So I've got to build that out. I did line the inside with some insulation foam just to give it a little bit of reinforcement. It's funny, if you actually look underneath the bumper of a real life car, you'll see styrofoam like that. So that's kind of a fun thing to approximate. A couple things that need to be done on this still are, I need to convert this into a T-top. Now, I don't want to cut this, because if I cut these two pieces, then I have just this floating piece, and I don't think that would be very good for the integrity of this. So what I plan to do, and this is something in my research I found out they actually did on the real kit, is they would just like put pieces of glass on the top to make it look like a T-top. I think what I'll do is try to shave this down a bit to accommodate a layer of styrene without making like a big texture jump, like a bump here. And then I'll just put some tinted action figure plastic over it, and then a piece of styrene down the middle, and that will approximate the T-top pretty well, I think. Obviously I have to make windows for it, and then I'm gonna find a way to make some rear view mirrors. This is where having a 3D printer would really come in handy, but at the same time, like, it's kind of fun to just figure this stuff out on my own, so I'll be doing that. The interior is going to need to be repainted. It's going to have to be that kind of camel tan color. From there, I need to build out the dash. Now, KITT had like a really complicated dash with a bunch of different lights and buttons and stuff like that. I don't think there's any way that I can really approximate that with like make it actually light up and that kind of stuff that would be feasible. So what I plan to do, I found online somebody made like a diagram of KITT's dashboard and you know all the gauges and everything. So I'm going to build a dash for it and then print those out and attach them to it so that it has the look with all the little buttons, because we're talking probably 100 little lights and buttons and things like that, and you know, at this scale that's just really hard to approximate by hand. So what I do have though for the dash, I was trying to figure out how I was going to do it, and I decided that insulation foam was going to be the move, because this dash is such a like odd shape. So I cut a piece of foam and have been sanding it down to be the right shape, and then once that's done, and once I get these little like cracks and crevices and stuff out of it, I'm going to paint it black, and I've made it so that this effectively fits right in here like this. So I'll need to build the steering wheel. KITT had a very cool Batmobile-esque steering wheel that I always loved, so I'm excited to build that. That'll probably be a mix of wood and styrene. And then there are pieces on the inside of the car that kind of run up here, like almost like in a helicopter or a plane when you see them like, oh, turn the systems on or whatever. So I don't know if I'm going to do all that. We'll see how much space there is and what affixing it to this top part would be like, since it's non-existent. And then I'm probably going to need to build some door liners, which again is going to be difficult, and I'll have to figure that out as I go, like how that's going to go. But you know, I want this thing to look cool and to be as accurate as I can get it. So we'll see what happens there. It'll probably be a mix of, again, styrene, you know, to maybe fill it out a little bit, because it's this kind of like curved shape. So probably something to make it a little more flat, like some styrene in here, and then maybe some foam pieces for like the armrest and stuff like that. The other thing to make this more accurate is going to be the wheels. KITT had these really cool like black Pontiac hubcaps over the stock rims. I think they were probably stock rims. And that is one thing that I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I tried a few things. I tried cutting some styrene, but it's really hard to get a nice clean circle. I tried these little wood pre-cut circles I got at the craft store, but they were either too big or too small and just didn't look right. And then when I realized this crappy chassis I bought has them on it, right? And it also has the silver rim parts that go around it. I took them out, but you can see I've got them all separate like this. So I thought maybe there's a way I can use them. This is what it looked like before, essentially. And these are much smaller than the wheels that are on this. So there was no using the tires that came with the crappy old kit. And frankly, I mean, they're beat to shit, so I didn't really want to use those. These are pretty beat up too, but they have the nice, at least, indication of tread on the outside, so I'd rather use those. And they fit with this car. And also, if you watched my Batmobile series, you know that, like, getting these things off of this is quite a challenge. So I was trying to figure out the best way to do it, and I realized that if I can get these off, these fit like this, right? And if you can see, I've started on this one. If I sand down the edge of this, these will actually fit inside what's already there. So once I get them in there, they're going to look like that. That's pretty close. I mean, aside from this extra bit of silver around the edge, but you know, I'm certainly willing to go with that to have a more accurate looking kit when I'm done. Of course, I'll be painting the lettering on the tires here all black so that it's more accurate looking. And also, you know, this is kind of distracting. I thought about trying to sand these off, but I think that would just end up making it look crappy, and I don't want to do that. And there would still be an indication of the letters, so just blacking it all out is going to be the way to go. Then on the back, obviously I'll need the California night plates, and this tail light had like a slick tinted black piece of glass over it. So I'll be approximating that as well. So a lot of work to do on this guy, but not to the level of like straight up building from scratch like I did on the tumbler build. So I'm excited to have something that's hopefully a little bit easier. There is definitely some scratch building on this, but not to the degree of the tumbler. And also I have a whole car to work with, as opposed to that tumbler was like basically the top shell, and I had to figure out everything else to go with it. So that's where we're starting with this one. Of course, I'm going to paint this a nice glossy black when it's done. And of course, I'll have Michael Knight all painted up to go with it. I also plan to build a diorama for this. The set they had for KITT was like a mobile lab type of thing where they would pull up into the back of a semi-truck trailer, and it had that sort of like pressed stamped steel flooring with those little zigzag diamond shapes. I can never remember what that stuff's called. And it had all these shelves with stuff with like red netting to hold all the boxes in while they were in motion in the vehicle. You know, like big old computers and stuff. So I'm going to build a diorama for this to go on to on my shelf that will approximate that. So that'll be part of this video series as well. Here I have some of that metal I was talking about. I found some, you know, that they make for RCs in 1/10 scale. So this will be the flooring of that truck setup. So that'll do it for this one. Just kicking it off with where it's at now and what's left. If you're interested in vehicle videos like this, I've got several in my channel so far. I've made a Mustang for John Wick. I made the aforementioned tumbler for my Batman Begins NECA figure. And then I also made a Dodge Charger for my custom Wesley Snipes Mezco blade figure. So please check those out. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and please be sure to subscribe if you want to follow along with this build, as well as check out the other ones I've put up so far. Also accompanying this video will be a trailer for my new graphic novel Retroactive, which I like to describe as a mix of James Bond and Groundhog Day. It's about a special agent working for a time travel agency as part of the US government who gets stuck in a time loop while trying to stop some radicals from altering history. That's available at retroactivecomic.com and on Amazon and anywhere books are sold. So thank you for watching, and until next time, keep your head on swivel.